How is the DFI price affecting the DUSD price? Welcome to another DeFi chain video. My name is Kügi and I try to give you a lot of information so that you can make smart decisions. Today we talk about a topic that we already talked before. That's how the DFI price is connected to the DUSD price. And we talked about that already, but during the last week or days, we saw that this topic gets more focus and more attention at the moment because we have this new special DFIPs that focus a lot on the DFI price, and we say that the rising DFI price and the DFI price is the most important driving factor for the DUSD price. And some people are a bit confused by that and are like, are worried that now the DUSD price is not supported anymore, and what happens if no one buys the DUSD anymore, if the price going down and so on. So I want to give a bit of an insight on why a rising DFI price or a changing DFI price is, based on the numbers and based on the facts, the most important factor on driving the DUSD price right now. And as a special bonus, because we have this special DFIP right now, stay till the end, and then we talk a bit about what I think about this DFIP and what it might have on effects on the market and on the DFI price and everything. So let's start right in. Whoever watches my videos more often should know that already. This graphic, it's basically our DeFi chain DEX. It's missing the new coins on the crypto parts, but we are not focusing on them today, so I don't care. It's every error is a connection from a pool. So we have the tokens, and whenever you have an error here, you can trade between those pool tokens. So you can trade DBTC to DFI and so on. We have the crypto world on our DEX, and we have the D token world, and then we have the gateway pools between DUSD and the stablecoins and DFI. So that's the current state, and that's what we have right now. So if you want to trade from DUSD to BTC, you can't go directly. You need to go that route. That's how it works. And now we focus on the things that's important for us right now, and that's on the one hand DFI and the DUSD and how those prices are made. So let's first look at the DFI price. What is the DFI price? Where do we get the DFI price? In the crypto world, or in the crypto side of the DEX, all the prices are basically arbitrageable with on other central exchanges and so on. So the price of Bitcoin to DFI is following the overall market price, say it this way. When we talk about a DFI price, we usually mean a DFI price in USD. That's why I removed now also the USD token and everything. So basically, those two pools with the two USD stablecoins are the main DFI price, if you want like that. So if we say DFI is at 0.3, then it means here we have a ratio of 1 DFI to 0.3 USDD. Why I kept those two here is just as a reminder that those are the biggest pools right now. So biggest pools with the biggest liquidity means they are the magnets for the price. So they have a strong impact on the price, but so because of arbitrage and everything. But when we talk about DFI price, that's our price. That the ratio in those pools are the prices that we want. I also have the connection here because there also is a pool DFI DUSD. It's a pretty big pool, but it's a really small connection. I painted it small because even though this is a price, it's not connected to those prices because there is no arbitrage possibility or no direct arbitrage possibility since we don't, since we have the DEX fee. So there is no instant arbitrage, but only if it's bigger than 30%. But this pool will get important now, and that's why I have it here that we say, okay, there is on the one hand a price of DFI in USDT, and there's a price of DFI in DUSD, which is different right now. So those two prices are different. Now let's look at what is the DUSD price. And for the DUSD we have more, but I'm looking just at the USD price, so the dollar price of DUSD. And there we have basically 4 ways of trading DUSD to a dollar, the dollar stablecoin. We have the USDC, we have the USDT, and we have the direct pool. And in this pool, we have a ratio that only changes if this pool is traded. But you can also say, I take the DUSD, swap it to DFI, then swap those DFI to USDT, and I also swap the USD to USDD. So I also have a price basically of this root. And here we have now two pools that affect the price on this root. That's the real DFI price via this pool, because this pool has exactly the DFI price. And this pool has the DFI price in the USD. So that's connected to the DUSD. And that's exactly how the DFI price is affecting the DUSD price. Because the price on this root changes whenever either this pool changes or this pool changes. This pool changes if DUSD is traded. This pool changes if DFI is traded here. So this way, normally if an asset changes in price only if it's bought or sold. If you sell an asset, the price goes down because you push the price down. If you buy an asset, the price goes up. Here, because of this connection, it's possible that the price of the USD goes up or down without the USD ever being traded. Because if the DFI price goes up, this connection price goes up without this pool ever changing. This stays the same, but just because this is going up, this connection goes up, and therefore the price goes up. This is of course just because there is no external DUSD price. If there would be an external DUSD price, and someone would say, I always get a DUSD on some central exchange for that amount, then as soon as this price changes, some arbitrage trader would get in and trade that so that this full root is according to this consensus price of the USD, say it this way. But since we don't have that, and we have this pool, so if this root changes a lot, and it changes, right now we have that X fee, so it needs to be above 30%, because arbitrage is always happening as soon as you have a price difference between two roots of more than the fee that is involved in doing the circle. So it needs to be more than 30%, then we would have the arbitrage. But right now, that's not exactly the case, or not only the 30%. But even then, if the DFI price goes up, it means, okay, the price goes up of this root, and if it goes up above this price, it will get arbitraged, but that means it lifts that price. So it can go up without ever trading the DUSD right now. And for everyone who's now a bit confused with, oh, numbers, arrows, what does that mean? Let's go a bit into the numbers. Simple numbers, just as an example. No fees, no anything, just to get a feeling for the numbers, what I mean here with if that gets traded. So let's start with the example. Current price, 1 DFI is 0.3 USDT. So this price here on the pink, arrow is 0.3. On this pool, we have 0.3 USDT per DFI. And this pool gets traded for 1 DFI is 1 DUSD. Currently, the pool ratio. Now, if I take 1 DUSD, swap it to DFI and then to USDT, I get for the 1 DUSD, I get 1 DFI, and then for the 1 DFI, I get 0.3 USDT. So 1 DUSD, 0.3 USDT. Price of the USD right now. Now, this pool stays the same. There is no change in the DFI to DUSD price, so no one trades the DUSD here. Nothing else gets traded. Everything stays the same. Just here, the price in the DFI USDT pool, so the DFI price, goes to $1. And suddenly, I have 1 DFI for 1 USDT. I can still go 1 USD for 1 DFI because this pool didn't change. And this 1 DFI can now be sold for 1 USDT. And suddenly, my 1 DUSD is worth 1 USDT. So, in theory, without arbitrage, without looping, without balancing that out, just because that got traded, the DUSD is on back. Without the DUSD ever being bought or sold or anything, just because of the connection via this pool to the DFI. So that's the connection, how the DFI price is really affecting the DUSD price. In reality, of course, if this happens, a lot of people would take the DUSD and sell it, and therefore counter that move, but it shows how it pushes the DFI wise pushes the DUSD up, and it only it's countered by cells. It's countered by DUSD cells. It's if then people think, okay, DUSD is increasing, then people might buy DUSD. But you have this effect because of this big DUSD pool. And just let's look a bit because this reason, this connection is also a bit the reason why we even have a discount. Because 1 year ago, or more than 1 year ago, we didn't even have those pools. So there was even no arbitrage possible. It was only these connections over the DUSD DFI pool. So we were completely connected to the DFI price. And let's look at what that made with the price. So here I have on the top the DUSD DFI price with the Oracle price. So the blue line is the real DFI price, and the red-green line is the DUSD DFI price. And down here we have the DUSD price via that route. So that down here is basically this long arrow, and that up here are those two, the parts that made. And here you see it's basically from the beginning of the DUSD itself. In the beginning, DFI price was above the DUSD DFI price, and we had a premium. And this difference here is exactly the premium that we have here. That's the price aligned by $1. We have the premium, and then we got the payback. We got the DUSD payback that made us reach the peg. So the premium went down and we stayed at the peg. Both lines are basically above each other, matching. And then here we had the big crypto crash. Everything went down, the whole market crashed, and DFI crashed. And because of that, DFI went down, and DFI DUSD had to go down too for the DUSD to stay at peg. But the DFI price went faster down sometimes that the DUSD was able to catch up. And that's what you see here, where we had a small discount, small compared to now. Back then it was a huge problem. And then it got back up a bit because people bought the DUSD. And then we had the final dump down of the market here in June, where the DUSD DFI pool wasn't able to catch up basically with all the selling of the DFI. And in my opinion, if we wouldn't have had the DFI DUSD pool back then, but only stablecoin pools, so we wouldn't have had this connection, and there would not need be a buying of DUSD back then because of this crash, we might even have had a premium in the DUSD, because DFI dropped and people would have been like, oh my god, I need to go into stablecoins. And the DUSD system, the D-token system, is completely disconnected from the crypto world. Would have been if we wouldn't have this DFI DUSD pool. And then people would have bought the DUSD with the DFI, basically, which means they would have gone DFI, sell DFI to USDD, and then go in here. So it would have been a lot of buying of DUSD. And this pool would have gone up into a premium. Now, because of only this route, they went from DFI to DUSD, but it was not enough. And that's the thing. There was selling, because that's why the pool went down, but we needed far more. We would have, I mean, in the beginning it was enough, and here in the end, we would have needed far more DUSD, DFI selling to DUSD, so that it catches up. If we wouldn't have this technical connection, there would be every DUSD's buying back then would have made a premium, which would have bought as a premium and no discount whatsoever. So the problem is not only the algo DUSD that we have in the system. I mean, without the algo DUSD, we would have the massive demand for DUSD in that area. So there would have been far more buying of DUSD, so enough buying to counter this downtrend of the DFI, to get all the funds into DUSD. Because of the algo DUSD, there was a bit of a base that wasn't, that was buffering that. That's why we have the discount now. That's the case. but without a strong connection, we might have never went into discount. Just to keep that in mind. Now we have the stablecoin pools and everything. So yes, this big DFI DUSD pool was a problem, and it's still a connection. But right now, it means that with a rising DFI price, we can get the DUSD out of the problem fast. So let's look into that, because that's the connection generally. And here, let's look a bit more into the details of this part. And here you see, it's now just basically the last year. And here you see what the buy and burn bot did. The DUSD DFI price went up a bit, down a bit, and when the buy and burn bot got really strong, you see here this basically constant swapping from DFI to DUSD, which pushed the price down. That's what the buy and burn bot did. And that's the reason why, even though the DFI price here was slightly decreasing, we still have a slightly increasing DUSD price during that period, but only slightly. In the beginning, you see here, it's still that it goes down. And you also see that the strong drop of DFI here resulted directly in a strong drop of the DUSD price. And even though the buy and burn bot was really successful here and did a lot of change in the DUSD DFI pool, it was only a slight change. When we see the strong increase of DUSD here, this is not because of the buy and burn bot or anything, but as you look at it, the real DFI price went up. We had a strong pump in the DFI price, and that's reflected directly in the chart. So any significant change in the DUSD price is always done or comes from a strong increase in the DFI price or a strong change in the DFI price. And that's happening for everything. If you say, okay, here we have a strong pump, comes from this pump in DFI. The drop of the DUSD price, drop of the DFI price, because here it's pretty flat in the overall. The buy and burn bot went down, there was selling, the buy and burn bot supported it, but the falling DFI price basically made it impossible for the buy and burn bot to stabilize the price enough. And then we have the strong bump up again because DFI went up. Then the long road down, falling DFI price, and as you see, even though the buy and burn bot, I mean, here we had strong DUSD sales, so that's why this went up a lot and the DUSD price dropped. But even though the buy and burn bot here had a lot of positive effects, it supported the price, it increased the negative interest, which created DFI demand and everything. As long as we have a falling DFI price, it basically has no chance to support the DUSD price enough. Here again, first time the DUSD price is rising a bit stronger again, it's because DFI is rising again. So overall, it's pretty clear that a rising DUSD price is only possible if we get the turnaround in the DFI price. So the focus must be on the DFI price, not on the DUSD price itself, but on the DFI utility and get their demand and a rising price in there. And yeah, that's a bit to the connection between DFI price and DUSD price. Just to hopefully clear that up, what the connection is and why it makes sense to focus on the DFI price and not only on the DUSD price, because if we focus on the DFI price, we solve the DUSD itself. One note to that, it doesn't mean on the one hand that focusing on DFI is we don't want or we stop believing in the DUSD or anything. Basically the opposite. We want to solve both at once, basically, or support both at once. And it also means, because it sounds like maybe someone gets now the impression that the DUSD is only stable if the DFI price is stable or is supporting it. And that's only the case right now. Because we had the problem, we had this strong connection, we still have the connection, but we have this connection until we solve the peg right now. So as soon as a rising DFI price helped us to get DUSD out of the discount, get it into a premium or at the peg, then we can activate the new stabilization mechanisms, the dynamic interest rates and everything. So this will only get activated once we have a stable peg, and or as DUSD at $1, and then it stays stable without any connection to the DFIP. Then we could think about reducing the size of this pool and increasing the sizes of those pools. Totally for that. Right now, it makes sense to have this pool so that the rising DFI with the demand can lift us up out of this discount right now. But then we will have that, and even though we have this pool, the mechanisms to increase demand to supply or increase the supply of the DUSD, the dynamic interest rates, will stabilize the DUSD itself without the connection or even also independent of the DFI price movement. So just to make that clear, it's not this is always the case. It's just the explanation of why right now it makes sense and why right now we have this connection. So now, since we rambled a bit about that, let's get to the bonus. Since you stayed for 20 minutes listening to DUSD DFI topics, let's look a bit into the special DFIP that's up for voting right now. I mean, there are 2 special DFIPs up for voting right now. And the basic idea of those special DFIPs is that the buy and burn bot is off for technical reasons right now. And we thought about, could we use those rewards, because we see that the DFI price is turning around and helping and improving right now a lot. And we thought, since we have this reward from the buy and burn bot that's accumulating now, what can we use them for to support the DFI price and not just try to burn them or anything, because just burning DFI doesn't help, but do something that increases the utility and increases the demand for DFI. And the idea that we came up with is that we have now these new staking pools, or the staking coins, these native coins, Solana, Polkadot, Matic, and Sui on the chain. And with the special DFIP from 2 weeks ago, Cake, who wraps those coins natively, is allowed or asked, or they should, the community told them to basically, that they take 90% of this collateral and stakes it natively on the native chain, and take those staking rewards that they get from there to buy DFI and burn those DFI. So basically, the more collateral we have, the more of those coins we have on the chain, the more staking rewards we get from the collateral, and the more buy pressure, constant buy pressure we get for DFI. So this is the one thing. And the other thing is that increasing TVL, so total value locked, getting liquidity onto the chain, is always good for attracting attention in the whole ecosystem and getting funds into the DeFi chain. And that's what we want. We want to get more liquidity, more funds in, more usability. And we have those new pools, and they generally are now real yield pools, so no inflation rewards. And we want to keep that on the long run. But we thought about, how about we make a 120 days promotion period, where during this promotion period, we use the rewards from the buy and burn bot that usually the buy and burn bot got, and put that into basically incentives for those pools, get rewards there to increase the APRs and attract more liquidity. And that's for 120 days. So it starts with the full rewards the buy and burn bot got. Plus, we also put the accumulated rewards that we have right now in those addresses, because there was some days where it's off already. So we have accumulated a lot of DFI, and we take those and use them to also incentivize Ethereum, because Ethereum is also a staking coin. It's also a coin that gets staked, or the collateral gets staked. So it's also this buy and burn constant support mechanism for the DeFi price. So it's basically an overall staking coins promotion period, basically. And we want that from different sizes and different sources, basically, from the unused emissions and everything. So what previously been done on the buy, or put to the buy and burn bot, is now put into this promotion. And it's paid for 120 days period, starting with the full amount and linearly fading out to zero over this 120 days. So it will go down, and then we are back to real yield. So that's basically what's coming with this special DFIP, is if they get approved in the next 5 days. And the big thing why I think this will have such an immense impact is the numbers that we see there. Because if we look at it, with those new pools, they are currently pretty low in liquidity. And that's why we do the promotion to get more funds in and to get more coins in from the other communities or from the other projects. And with the initial rewards that we put there on the first days, if the liquidity wouldn't change until the start of the promotion, we would have there 16,000, 10,000, depending on the pool, % APR rewards in those pools. So astronomically huge rewards again, and this would attract TVL. And even, or if we play with the numbers and say, okay, our target APR is, my target APR is around 15%. Because I think it's possible. I'm not sure that it's guaranteed or anything. I just think it's a possibility. It's possible that we go down toward that amount, basically. Because natively, if you take those coins and stake it natively, you get between 5 and 10% rewards, staking yield. If you get 15% on DeFi chain for the same coins, it's basically, yeah, it's a bit different because it's liquidity mining, but for yield farmers, it's still very interesting to get double or 3 times the rewards compared to your native chain. So that's still interesting and might be that we see the numbers going there. And if we calculate that and say, okay, our target APR is 15% on those staking coin pools, then it would need 160 million DFI liquidity going into those pools. So 160 million additional DFI demand on the chain. And now the question is, where would this come from? And if we look at the current DFI on the chain that could go into that, so I'm not looking at the community fund or anything, just the DFI that we have. And we have right now 85 million free DFI, so tokens and UTXOs. That's all the UTXOs that in all addresses on exchanges and tokens that are flowed on Cake and Bake and everything. So a lot of UTXOs, or that's a lot of tokens that are definitely not going in there, but just to have a feeling on what we have around. 85 million free DFI. In the vaults, we already have 96 million in the collateral, 96 million DFI in the collateral. In the DFI pools, so in all the liquidity mining pools, we have 139 million DFI, and in masternodes, we have 382 million DFI in there. So that's the coins that we have on the chain. Now the question is, what would move into those pools? From the masternodes, usually masternodes don't move a lot of coins around. They stay there because they want to stay in the staking. They want that reward, and that's it. So I don't expect a lot there. Honestly, I would be surprised if we see more than 10 million DFI moving out of the masternodes into the new pools. From the free DFI, I think there will be some movement, but because that's a lot of float and UTXOs from the exchanges and everything, I expect not more than 40 million. Not more. I think even if we get 40 million from here into the new pools, it's a lot. DFI in the vaults, collateral, they are there to get the negative interest. Negative interest is still high. Negative interest is increasing because now people get bullish on DFI and swap their DUSD to DFI. So even though the buy and burn pot is off, we see the negative interest not going down too much because there are a lot of DUSD swaps coming in, and we still burn DUSD with those swaps. So I don't see a lot of them coming out. But even if we say half of the collateral from the vaults are coming out, we are still 40 million here, 50 million here is 90, 10 million from here, total 100 million from the pools. I don't see a lot of DFI coming out of the pools into the new pools because either they are already in the pools that we want, so there we increase the liquidity, and if it's coming out of the BTC pool, maybe a bit, but not much, and it's not that much in there, because if you go out of the BTC DFI pool, what do you do with your BTC? Maybe you go out and then swap BTC to DFI to move everything to the new pool, but that means the price, the BTC DFI price, you buy DFI basically. So even if we assume that we say, okay, 100 million from here, 30 million, 20 million from here, really price neutral coming out, is still that we need 30 to 40 million to be bought. I don't know how much will be bought, but I think it will be a significant amount, millions of DFI that we need to be bought to get these pools filled up. And if you believe that, you have a netto amount of DFI being bought. And what we saw in the last days with the pumps that we had right now, if you look at the DEX and all the DFI that's bought and sold on the DEX and take the netto amount, then we have a pretty good ratio or relation between the amount of netto DFI volume on the DEX to the outperformance to Bitcoin. And that's roughly each million DFI being bought, or netto being bought, so netto difference between buys, all buys and sells, each million 1.5 to 1.7% outperformance of DFI against Bitcoin. And if you now think, okay, maybe we buy 30 million DFI, 30 million times 1.5 is a lot of percent. And that would be only the additional demand that we have here. If we make this outperformance, if we start a consistent outperformance of Bitcoin during the current times where the whole market is flat and everything's boring and going a bit down, and we outperform, this increases, of course, the attention, the interest of people, and maybe the FOMO and the hype and everything. So I think we would see even more netto buy pressure additional to that. And then we have the staking rewards that create buy pressure and everything. So a lot of stuff happening there, which could increase the DFI price massively due to this demand. And then, since this is not enough, basically, we are now at a pretty stable case in the MetaChain development. So when you look at MetaChain and the Shanghai at the beta phases, I think it's possible. It depends on how much problems or how much issues we see, but we are feature complete, and it's only about improving stability and making it bulletproof, basically. And I think we are close to getting a release candidate. We might see it this week, we might see it next week, but once we have a release candidate and nothing else comes up, it takes us 3 to 4 weeks after that to have the mainnet fork, so the mainnet launch of MetaChain. So it's realistically, in my opinion, that we see a MetaChain launch within the next 4 to 5 weeks. In 1 week, the promotion starts, this whole demand comes in, we see possibly an outperformance. 3, 4 weeks later, we see a DMC launch, MetaChain launch, where right after the launch, we see on MetaChain a lot of projects launching that create additional demand for DFI. Because there you also have DEXs, there you also have pools, there you have all the tokens. So you also have a BTC DFI pool on a vanilla swap, for example. And they will also, I guess, or I expect them to have incentives in the beginning, to have inflation in the beginning from their vanilla token. So not DFI incentives, but vanilla token incentives to get liquidity in. So they are trying to get as much liquidity into their pools as possible, which creates, again, demand for DFI. Currently, we have 134.9 million DFI in our native DEX, and all those pools we will also have on the MetaChain DEXs, and even more maybe. So how much liquidity do we need there? It's also additional demand that needs to be filled from those areas. Where will they come from? Again, a lot of demand hitting our limited supply of DFI, which could spiral up like crazy. Because next thing is, if we have that and we pump the DFI price because of all this demand goes up, it also increases the DUSD price. Suddenly the negative interests are far more interesting. People sell or swap DUSD to DFI because they get bullish on DFI. A lot of DUSD sells, which looks bad first if you only look at DUSD sells, but it burns a lot of DUSD. It increases the negative interest. That increases the demand for DFI in the vaults. So with even more demand, then because this pumps the rewards in the D token system, because if DFI pumps, the rewards in the D token system get up linearly with the DFI increase. So the demand for D tokens and DUSD, also for MetaChain, we have the same pools there, goes up. Demand for D tokens and DUSD can only be filled now by new vaults, new loans, new loans means more collateral. 50% of the collateral needs to be DFI. So you have even more DFI demand. So there is a possible positive spiral. I'm not saying it will definitely happen like that. I can be wrong. It can all go to zero. No financial advice. Just trying to give you the numbers and the possibilities so that you understand what could happen here and that you can decide for yourself, do you think 15% is good? Maybe you think 30% is a realistic, maybe you think 50%, maybe you think nothing will come in. I don't know. But I think there's a big possibility, there's or a high possibility that we see a lot of demand coming in, a lot of attention coming in, and a start of a possible spiral that can spiral DFI and DUSD out of the discount, out of the bear market, and into a stable peg and a great pump, basically. So with this, no more hyping. Maybe one word of advice or warning, because we saw it in the past that people got super hypey and super euphoric about a DFI pump, and then one small thing happened, a bigger DUSD sell, DUSD back into a discount, and everyone got panicking. Please stay rational. Look at the numbers, decide what you want to do, and if the price pumps, don't expect 10x overnight. Don't expect that it will blow up to $10 to $50 overnight or anything, and then be disappointed. There will be retraces on the way up. There is no straight line up. There will be retraces. There will be whales taking profits, and the price will go back down 10-20%. There will be big DUSD swaps from DUSD to DFI, or even out of the whole system, which means the DUSD might go close to the peg and then back into a 10-15% discount. There will be a lot of volatility in the market. Don't get spooked by that. Look at the numbers, decide what you want, decide what you think it will play out over the next weeks, and then act accordingly, and don't get emotional during the maps, because there will be a lot of emotions, there will be a lot of euphoria if we pump like that, and don't get caught up in that. So try to stay rational, try to stay to the numbers, and then let's see how it all plays out. I hope this provided value. I hope this helped you make good decisions. Leave in a comment of what you think will happen. Do you think the numbers are good? Do you see any error in the numbers? Do you see anything where you say, okay, it won't play out like that? Yeah, always happy to see comments, and if you like it, give it a like. And with that, I will definitely do an analysis once the DFIP gets activated and we see how the numbers play out, and see if my assumptions are true or how far we go or what's happening. And till then, happy voting. Please vote. And then let's see you at the next video.